Petreece, but we are happy to be connected with you once again.
Yes, so really, really happy to be here. The program that I'm doing today is Red Flags in Court and Relationships, and of course the promo is Don't Marry Him or Her. And it is because I'll be reading from that article today also. This is really important. I mean, we're wired for relationships and we all want relationships. I don't believe everybody would be married, and I don't think anything is wrong with that. I don't think everybody is supposed to be married, and I don't think anything is wrong with that. I do not feel that married people are better than unmarried people or single people. That's not one of my beliefs at all. I do not believe that God uses married people in some kind of greater way than he uses single people, right? I go with what I see in the scripture, which is what Paul states, right? So just understand that even as I share, I don't have a one group of persons being better than another group of persons. I believe God has a plan for all of our lives, and it's an awesome, wonderful plan as we submit to him. So today's program, tell your friends, Facebook Live on Isaac 98.1 FM radio station. So you can turn you into the station. You can go on Facebook Live. Sometime down the road, it will be uploaded to YouTube, FBN YouTube. But today, Facebook Live and 98.1 FM radio. Yes. So I'm looking at red flags in court and relationships. And first of all, I just want to encourage every couple who believes that the person that they are with, that they want to spend the rest of their life with them, to please get premarital counseling. Please, 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 right? Now, a lot of persons offer group work, with other premarital couples, but I think it's always important to get counseling as a couple. Please ensure also that the counseling addresses family of origin work. If you engage in this type of work, please ensure that family of origin work is something that is done, because we have to remember the seeds for destruction in marriage was sown long before you met. There are a lot of things that we learn from our family of origin that can be destructive in our marriages. Also, if you're engaging in sex, please discuss that with your counselor. A sexual relationship, it clouds your judgment. It clouds your judgment, it clouds your decision making. And we understand also, as followers of Jesus, it is a sin to engage in sexual activity with someone that you're not married to. And until you're married, so there may be a promise to marriage, you might be engaged, and this is the person, but until you're married, this is not your spouse. This is not your husband. This is not your wife. And sexual activity should not be happening, especially if you have decided that you are following Jesus. Now, premarital counseling is a form of counseling that can benefit any couple that is planning to marry. Premarital counseling, sometimes people may call it marriage preparation or premarital preparation. And for many people, premarital counseling is not a form of therapy. So it is just educational, where couples learn skills that they will need to support them in having a happy, healthy, and lasting marriage. But to be honest, for me and many counselors that I know, right, therapists and so on, premarital counseling needs to be both educational, where you're being taught what is marriage, principles for healthy relationship, how to create, your culture of love, tools for healthy conflict resolution, but also therapeutic to resolve problematic personal behaviors, beliefs, feelings, and relationship issues that many of us pick up in our family of origin, and even to where we would have had failed relationships. So you have to understand, relationships failing can be very painful, and it can cause us to have certain beliefs, certain mindsets, because of the pain that we experience when a relationship fails. So that part of counseling, of premarital counseling, where we not just looking at, okay, these are the things they need to know, this is what the Bible says, but also looking at you, the person, what has happened to you through your family of origin, what has happened to you as you have been through life and as you have been relating with people, and some of those relationships have been painful. How has it impacted you as a person? And making sure that the ways, if there are negative things there that can harm your marriage, dealing with those things. Also remember that because you do premarital counseling, it does not mean you are getting married. In fact, there are some couples, it's not a majority, would go through counseling and find it best to not pursue marriage, right? They both go on separately to live happy and healthy lives. So this doesn't happen a lot, but you have situations where persons, they come into premarital counseling and they realize, no, this is not where I'm supposed to be. This is not, the person for me. So understanding too that deciding to do premarital counseling is not a guarantee that we are definitely going to get married. Sometimes we realize, and thankfully so, that this is not good for us, right? It is best to seek premarital counseling once you truly believe that you both want to pursue a relationship that will end in marriage. Of course, you want to do it. It's best before engagement, but definitely before a wedding date is set. Because, once the wedding date is set, nobody can turn it back, right? Auntie Susie, as my husband likes to say, well, he always uses that word Susie. I must ask him about this Susie. Who is Susie? Right? Auntie Camille coming from Canada, Uncle Troy coming from New York, Granny already pack up her suitcase with all kind of trinkets to bring for you for the wedding. How are we going to tell them this is not happening, right? So 6 great reasons to get premarital counseling. And this is from Lisa Kift, a licensed marriage and family therapist. And of course, I will add in mine. 1, to strengthen communication skills. And yes, this is a program looking at red flags in courting relationships, but this is me saying the importance of getting counseling. So before I go into that, something came to mind. A red flag doesn't mean a relationship cannot work. It means stop and let us address this. If we are trying to address this and nothing happens, there is no change, the issue continues, then we know this relationship cannot continue. So a red flag does not necessarily mean we cannot have this relationship. It means we need to stop. And we need to do some serious work here. We cannot continue with this relationship, with this issue. We can't. And therefore, if that issue is not worked on, if that issue is not resolved, then we really will have to stop. Yeah? So 6 great reasons to get premarital counseling. 1, strengthen communication skills, being able to effectively listen, truly hear and validate the other person's feelings and thinking. Because this is something I teach in terms of when we're talking about communication and even having difficult conversations, the importance of validating thinking and validating feelings. When you do this, a person truly feels heard. And in many unhealthy marriages, one of the major complaints is that a spouse does not feel heard. And that's a very painful thing. That's a very lonely place in a marriage, right? So this is very important in premarital counseling, strengthen your communication skills. Couples that really communicate effectively can discuss and resolve issues when they arise more effectively. And I suppose, like the Petreece, of course, right? And this is one of the most important aspects of emotional safety between a couple, knowing that I can go and I can talk to my spouse and I know he will get it, I know she will get it. It doesn't mean they agree, but we know we can truly hear and understand each other. Number 2, to learn conflict resolution skills. And we know this is important because all marriages have conflict. It's just impossible not to have conflict. Last night, my husband was helping me check out. I said, Petreece, you're not buying no new curtains. Go and see what you have there. So I go on, he lift up. If you have a kind of bed couch now, and inside they have storage. So poor thing, he bend down and he lift it up. And I'm pulling out pieces, counting, you know, to see how much I have to put up. My boy, it heavier and he there in a kind of awkward position. And then he nail, and my nails is like nails. My nails scratching. I just see the face twist up. Well, girl, Tiffany, I just drop and I just run out the room. Yeah, after Petreece, what is that here? I wanted you to, if you was vexed, you know, and upset with me, to be able to be vexed and upset with you, feeling like you cannot be because I there. It was just so hilarious. I really run out the room and you say you really laugh. But the thing about it is that all marriages will have conflict. I know that wasn't a conflict, but due to something can happen every day. Every day there could be something, right? So you could have conflict about who taking out the garbage, right? And even, of course, very serious conflict about serious issues, right? There are ways to effectively de-escalate conflict. And I thought running out of the room quick was one of those ways to de-escalate. Right? There are ways to effectively de-escalate conflict that are highly effective and can decrease the time spent engaged in arguments. And this is something I also teach in premarital counseling, very, very important. And it is something my husband and I have done so that in our marriage, honestly, and some people don't believe it, my husband has never raised his voice at me. I have never raised my voice at my husband. We have had multiple conflicts throughout the day, but we have worked through it and always in a better place. And actually, by God's grace, on Thursday, the 23rd, is 27 years of marriage, which I am just so, so thankful to God for his grace, his wisdom, his mercy, and the support of many people, right? So this is very important. And John Gottman research has shown that couples that can do this well are less likely to separate. Couples who handle conflict well are less likely to separate, right? And very important is understanding that every conflict should help you, if it is handled in a healthy way, it should help you to understand something about yourself, something about your spouse, something about your relationship that helps to make it better. Number 3, in terms of the importance of premarital counseling, to identify any problematic family of origin issues. We learn so much of how to be from our parents or primary caregivers, and of course they could be grandparents, aunties, uncles, different people, right? And other early influences. If one of the partners experience high conflict or unloving household, it can be helpful, one or both, it can be helpful to explore that regarding how it might play out in a marriage. This is very important. How we dealt with emotions, how we dealt with conflict, how we dealt with anger, how we dealt with chores, the expectations, all of these things. Really, really, really important. Communicating, forgiveness, all of those things. Couples who understand the existence of any problematic conditioning around how relationships work are usually better at disrupting a repeat of these learned behaviors. So if we are truly conscious that where I came from is dysfunction, I can see where the dysfunctions are, right? I am better at disrupting that. Now, what I have seen with couples, especially when I'm counseling married persons, is that they would have seen the lack. They know that they didn't want this in their marriage, but they never worked on what do I need to do within myself so that this pattern isn't repeated. So they know they don't want it. So for example, mom may have left or dad may have left, and they want a family now that is intact with mommy and daddy there. And so they do everything in their power to ensure that they are there for their children, but it still doesn't work. It doesn't work because they have not realized the impact of what happened with their parents, how it impacted them, and also the things they learned. They still they didn't learn how to handle conflict well. They didn't learn how to be loving and all these different things. So all they know is, I want an intact marriage, mommy and daddy there, whatever. But they haven't dealt with, do they have the capacity in terms of, do they have the knowledge, the know-how, the healing to ensure that they can have an intact family? I hope you're all understanding what I'm saying. So I may see the lack, don't want it, try everything to do it, but what I haven't done, I haven't dealt with myself so that I can do that, right? Number 4, another importance of premarital work is to discuss role expectations. It is incredibly common for married couples to never really have a deep discussion of who will be doing what in the marriage, right? And this can apply to finances, chores, anything in the marriage, roles of husband, wife, those kinds of things. And remember, a lot of those things we also learn from our family of origin. So that the normal thing is to expect. If I saw my mom doing this, I'll expect my wife to do this. If I saw my dad doing this, I expect my husband to do this. And of course, you're not marrying your mother or your father. So those things need to be discussed. Number 5, explore spiritual beliefs. There must be discussion and an understanding of our beliefs, how they will function in marriage with regard to practice, belief, even in respect to how we raise the children and what we expose the children to. That's a very important discussion that you need to have. And just going back in terms of roles and expectations, finances is a big part of that, as something separate to discuss finances. Number 6, develop personal, couple, and family goals. It amazes me how many married couples have never discussed their relationship goals, let alone personal or family. I honestly think it just does not cross their minds. This is a long-term investment together. Why not put your heads together and look at how you would like the future to look? There are many areas that can be explored, and it can be a fun activity to do together. And this is something Huey came up with, that whole your marriage mission. And this is something I do with couples, looking at what your vision for your marriage and your marriage mission. So I am now reading from an article entitled "Please Don't Marry Him," and I will put in her, right, by Gary Thomas. He's a well-known author. He's the author of The Sacred Marriage and The Sacred Search. And this is Gary Thomas speaking here, open quotation, I'm quoting, "My heart is grieving. I've received several Facebook messages from women who ask my advice about a dysfunctional dating relationship. When The Sacred Search, which is a book he authored, first came out several years ago, each one noticed several red flags in their dating relationship and asked me if I thought they should be concerned. In every case, the answer was a clear yes. Thank you so much, was their reply, typical reply. Then they went silent. Now I'm getting a second round of Facebook messages. And since Facebook brings up the previous correspondence, I'm reminded of prior conversations. It breaks my heart. Let me paraphrase a few. He said he was sorry. We ended up getting married, and now I'm the only one who seems to care about our relationship. I'm doing everything I can to save my marriage, but he refuses to see a counselor." And this is Petreece talking now, right? You see that thing about persons saying, we don't need to see anybody to get help. We have what it takes, right, to deal with our relationship. What any third party could come and tell us, about, especially when we have ongoing issues in courtship. That is a big, big big red flag. Big red flag, right? So back to the article. You were right. He's a sex addict. I guess now I should have listened. Turns out he's gay. Let me say this as clearly and as forcefully as I can. A dysfunctional dating relationship sealed by marriage doesn't make any problems go away. It simply cements you in a dysfunctional marriage. And let me say this. This is Petreece speaking here now. I'll get back to the article. A person with a serious lust problem in courtship, getting married, does not deal with the person's serious lust problem. So I'm just saying this. So we're saying we're not going to have sex until we get married. The person only pushing aside every barrier, or they're going and having sex with somebody else because you're not doing it and you just there, okay, I understand, and all your friends telling you, well, you know, that is how people are, how you can expect somebody not to have sex, and then after, when you're married, yeah, you're having sex. But that does not help a lust problem. A lust problem is bigger than about having sex. So I'm just saying these things because I see it. Going back to the article now, quoting from Gary Thomas, right? Marriage won't improve your man or woman. Marriage won't change your man. The same is true of a woman, of course. Marriage simply weds you to your partner's problems. When you raise a significant issue in dating, in courtship, and the man or woman responds by crying and saying they're sorry, nothing has changed. They have been caught. They don't want to lose you. But it doesn't mean they will repent. It doesn't mean their character will improve. You know what it means? It just means they have cried. That's all it means. And I know I'm sounding a little, this is me, Petreece, saying this, a little harsh, but it is very painful to see persons, a marriage that isn't working well is very painful. And it's painful for everybody involved, including the children, right? Give them a Kleenex, right? So let me say that again. It doesn't mean their character will change. It just means they have cried. That is it. So I'm back to the article. Give them a Kleenex, but don't give them a ring. At least not until you see substantive long-term change. If you don't witness character transformation before marriage, you're foolish to expect it after marriage. A mature person, the kind you want to marry, is always growing and always open to biblically based conviction. He or she walks in grace, so they humbly realize they are not perfect and will not be overly defensive when a loved one points out something with gentleness and understanding. If this dynamic isn't true in dating, it won't be true in marriage. So I remember, this is me speaking here now, Petreece. I was very defensive, and I've shared this with you all many times, because my identity was in getting it right and being good. So when during courtship, he would point out things to me, what I would do is point out things that he wasn't getting right and he wasn't doing right. And very, very defensive. And I mean, I'm looking back and I know that would have been painful for him. And I did it probably more than twice. But he confronted me, and I know he confronted me more than once on it. And probably the second or third time that he confronted me, and he said, no, this cannot continue. And then, you know, after we decided to see, I started to realize what he was saying was true and where this whole thing was coming from. Now, if I wasn't willing to change, I don't feel he should have married me, right? Because you know what would happen in marriage? I am always right. He is always wrong or always criticizing him, and I am not changing. And like it or not, there's no perfect human being. And not seeing a trajectory of growth in a relationship is a very dangerous thing. So I am saying it is very important to see growth and to see, especially if we are claiming to be followers of Jesus, where we open to biblically based conviction, where the Holy Spirit could speak to us and show us, this is wrong, we need to work on this. And you're seeing the person getting help for things and they are growing, right? So let me get back to the article. And Gary Thomas is saying, never marry someone hoping they will change. Marry someone because they have marry someone because they already have changed. One woman told me she couldn't bear to just give up 4 years of my life. So this is her, the woman saying this, to just give up 4 years of my life. Now she may be headed for divorce and will have to give up 7 years of her life. I don't look at it that way, but she does. So Gary Thomas is saying he doesn't look at it that way in terms of her giving up 7 years, but that's how she sees it. Another woman thought marriage would solve the sexual issues her potential husband struggled with. Sadly, it didn't. It almost never does. It just exposes them for what they really were. I take no pleasure in saying, I told you so. None. And I have never put it like that anyway. This post is for single men and women who deep down know there are serious issues with the person they are dating, but who are too afraid to admit it or to act on it. Your fear of breaking off the relationship should be done away with by the fear of making a foolish marital choice, which is far, far worse. Trust in God. Those who know your name will trust in you. For you, Lord, have never forsaken those who seek you. This is Psalm 9:10. God can help you have a difficult conversation. He can soothe the heartache. He can lead you into green pastures of a mature, healthy relationship, but not if you stay stuck in the barren desert of a dysfunctional relationship. My wife and I have a single friend who is godly, strong, and gifted woman, who is a godly, strong, and gifted woman. She's overheard some of the conversations without identifying details, of course, and recently told us, hearing these stories make me feel a whole lot better about my situation. It is truly better to be a little frustrated in your singleness, if in fact you are frustrated at all, because some persons are not, than to think a dysfunctional marriage to a dysfunctional man or woman would be better because at least you'd be married. Legions of men and women miserable in their brand new dysfunctional marriages would disagree with you. Please, please, please marry an emotionally aware, relationally gifted believer who is humble, spiritually alive, and sexually whole. If you compromise on any of these, you will have a long time to regret it. Unfortunately, I've had to disable messages on my author page because I just can't keep up. And the advice wasn't often heeded anyway. I was used for singles to vent their frustrations, but all that did was make them feel momentarily better so they could continue in an unhealthy relationship. End of quote. And I'm saying here that this is really, really important advice, right? Do the work, do the work, do the work, do the work. Now, some red flags. So red flags. Now, these red flags came from the word book, Preparing for Marriage, Discover God's Plan for a Lifetime of Love, written by Bohini Nelson et al. And it was published by Gospel Light. And of course, I also added some red flags. Just know that any relationship would have its difficulties. Know too that even in marriage, because nobody's perfect. So it's not like I went into marriage and I was some kind of perfect person or anything like that. But I always had a trajectory, just like my husband, of continual growth, of wanting to be better, of wanting to be more loving, of wanting to be kinder, of wanting to be more submissive to Christ and to be more submissive to each other. So it was that continued to be the direction that we were heading in, of greater self-awareness, of greater submission and obedience to Christ. That was how we were. It wasn't two perfect people getting married. It was nothing like that. And so what I'm saying here, this is not about finding this person who is perfect. That person does not exist. But it's about a person seeing a willingness to change and to grow and to learn and to choose to be vulnerable and to choose to forgive and to choose to heal and to choose to allow God to work on their hearts. That is what this is about, right? So any relationship will have its difficulties, but sometimes those difficulties are indicators of deep-rooted problems that, if not addressed quickly, will poison your marriage. If any of the following caution signs exist in your relationship, we recommend that you talk about the situation as soon as possible with a counselor, or if you have a mentor, before considering marriage. And these red flags of relational difficulties, remember, as I said, red flags, stop, do something. If nothing happens, then you need to know we can't go ahead with this. Some red flags, actually, if you see them, we should just, this cannot be, and you move on, right? So when I use the word partner, so I'm talking about the red flags. And when I use the word partner, I'm referring to your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your fiancé, right? I don't know if I'm saying it right, but I think both of them said the same way, right? But that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying partner. I'm not talking about spouse here, right? One, you have a general uneasy feeling that there's something wrong in your relationship with your partner. That's a red flag. Just this general uneasiness. Remember, especially if you're a follower of Jesus, you have the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit, you're sensing something. You don't have a peace. Don't just go ahead if you don't have peace, right? You find yourself arguing often with your partner. That's number two. Number three, your partner seems irrationally jealous whenever you interact with someone of the opposite sex. 4, you avoid discussing certain subjects because you are afraid of your partner's reaction. 5, your partner finds it extremely difficult to express emotions or is prone to extreme emotions such as out of control, anger, right, aggression, or even exaggerated fear. Or they swing back and forth between emotional extremes, such as being very happy one minute, then suddenly exhibiting extreme sadness at the next. 6, your partner displays controlling behavior. This means more than just wanting to be in charge from time to time. It means your partner seems to want to control every aspect of your life, your appearance, your lifestyle, your interactions with friends and family, etc. Your partner seems to manipulate you into doing, what he or she wants. Number 7, you are continuing the relationship because of fear. Fear of hurting your partner. And I've heard this many times. I don't want to hurt him. I don't want to hurt her, right? Or fear of what he or she might do if you ended the relationship. And I've had people tell me the person said they would kill themselves if the relationship ends. And people say things like this to manipulate. right? And I've seen where even families, like mothers and fathers, getting involved instead of sitting their child down and explaining to them, listen, this is a relationship. People can make choices. Something is wrong here. Calling the other person saying, please don't end the relationship. Please don't end the relationship. He'll kill himself. She'll kill herself. This is too hard for them. No, parents, you're enabling nonsense. That is not healthy. Number 7. You are right. That was number 7. Number 8. Your partner does not treat you with respect. He or she constantly criticizes you or talks sarcastically to you. Number 9. Your partner is unable to hold on a job, doesn't take personal responsibility for losing a job. He or she frequently borrows money from you and all their friends. That's a red flag. You are both saying you are Christians. This is number 10. You are both saying you are Christians, but your partner has no zeal for the Lord. Number 11. Your partner is unable to resolve conflict. He or she cannot deal with constructive criticism, never admits a mistake, and never asks for forgiveness. Number 12, your partner is overly dependent on parents for finances, decision-making, and emotional security. And it could be for all of them, and, or it could be or, right? Any of these can be something you need to look into. Number 13, your partner shows a pattern of dishonesty, rationalizing questionable behavior, or twisting words to his or her benefit. Number 14, your partner exhibits patterns of physical, emotional, or sexual abuse towards you or others. If he or she has ever threatened to hit you or hit you, this is a clear warning sign of future abuse. If he or she puts you down or continually criticizes you, this is a sign of emotional abusiveness. This is not something to be taken lightly, especially in courtship and somebody hitting you. This is no. These are things that can be serious deal breakers in terms of relationships, right? So it happens. Some people is a deal breaker. There's no way I'm staying here, but you cannot continue that relationship without getting intervention, because that is an indication of future abuse. Number 15, your partner displays signs of drug or alcohol abuse, unexplained absences or missed dates, frequent car accidents, the smell of alcohol or strong odors of mouthwash, erratic behavior or emotional swings, physical signs such as red eye, unkept look, unexplained nervousness, etc. Actually, any addictive behavior. So even things like gambling and stuff like that, any kind of addictive behavior, those things are red flags, right? Number 16, unforgiveness. It is hard for and or your partner is unwilling to let go of the past and to forgive others. And even sometimes people have said, I will never forgive. That is a red flag. Anytime you hear somebody say, I will never forgive him, I will never forgive her, there's a lot of healing work that needs to happen in that person's life, because marriage is part of a healthy marriage is two great forgivers. It have plenty things in marriage to forgive for, right? Number 17, your partner has no friends. That's an important thing. At its core, marriage is about friendship. Marriage is about being vulnerable. Marriage is about sharing your heart and really listening and making back up and falling out, which is a big part of friendship. And if you don't have friends, it means your ability to be a friend is compromised. And that is a red flag. Number 18, you feel forced to engage in activities that make you uncomfortable. That's a red flag. 19, as a female, and I've seen this one coming up, as a female, you are in as a female in your late 20s, like 29, 28, 29, early 30s, and the guy is in his late teens or early 20s, like 20, 21, and be in a committed relationship and going to get married when he's 22 and you are 30. I've seen those things. And he has not been able to just come to terms with him being an adult and feels very pressured in that whole space of being a husband and all these things. And later it ends up biting you, wife, big time. Stay away, right? You're in your late 20s, early 30s, leave the 18, 19, 20-year-old fella alone. He might be real nice. He telling you all the right words. He doing whatever. Give him some time to grow up a little bit, right? And I'm talking from working with people. And number 20, you have different spiritual beliefs. Now, we know that even as followers of Jesus, not being unequally yoked is a big thing, right? Do you recognize any of these caution signs in your relationship? If so, which ones? If so, I recommend that you talk about the situation as soon as possible you can start with a pastor, hopefully give you good advice, counselor, mentor. Special warning. If any of these caution signs are present in your relationship and you're engaging in sexual intercourse, it is imperative, it is important that you terminate the physical intimacy immediately. God has your welfare in mind, and when he forbids sexual connection before marriage, he's not trying to be a cosmic killjoy. The premature bond this type of intimacy creates will make it extremely difficult for you to make the needed changes, right, in your relationship, or even to break off the relationship if you have to.
Let me tell you this one, how to deal with these things after marriage though, because some persons are great at dating.
Some people great at dating, right? I mean, just going back, this is part of the importance of at least a year of premarital counseling, right? Because people great at dating, but a year of premarital counseling kind of helps to share things. But you're already married. Get counseling. Get counseling. Get somebody, even if you get somebody who could talk to the spouse and get them to see, okay, something happening here that's wrong, because sometimes, you know, the spouse can no longer influence the husband or the wife, right? Yeah, that's what I would say.
Let me just share this comment with you from Facebook. Mrs. Cuffie, I have been listening to your program a while now, and it has helped me greatly with my marriage. Thank you.
Thanks so much for sharing that. You're welcome.
All
right, take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.